I tie this back to that people pleasing and
Okay.
call it borrowed confidence.
Yep.
So I used to be the person that was sending emails at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. My confidence was caught up in being that overperformer.
Okay.
Self-esteem and boundaries, I think, is an expression of what my worth is. And when I'm able to assert my limits on where I'm not going and where you can take me, they reinforce my self-respect. I believe you need to lead with value, not anxiety, and then frame those boundaries as quality controls, or QA, if you will. Better yet, the result is better work, better reputation, and better runway. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. It's telling you
Yes.
that my resources matter to me, right? My
Yes.
time, my attention, my energy, that matters to me, and that's important.
Listen, if you've ever felt like you have to work twice as hard just to be seen, you're not alone, but you're probably playing the wrong game. I'm Jonathan Larnce Clark, and today on Your Hidden Advantage, we're redefining what it means to be excellent. We're moving past the anxiety of overwork and excessive performance that most of us are accustomed to, and we're defining a strategic approach to setting boundaries that will protect your time, your energy, and your professional reputation. I'm sitting down with transformation expert and author Daphne Davis to discuss how setting boundaries is not only an action of self respect, but a way to invite greater success and not less. Grab a pencil and paper, be ready to transform, and let's get started. Can you talk about how people who have trouble setting boundaries are having self esteem challenges?
Yeah, I look at this from doubting your worth. I tie this back to that people pleasing and
Okay.
call it borrowed confidence, right? So I feel very valuable when I'm overperforming, right? So I'm kind of borrowing that. It's like I feel really, really good that I'm doing that because I'm overperforming. And I think with that, it's self-trust, keeping a small promise to myself daily so that I can make sure that I'm building that self-esteem and not feeling that it's just overpowered. So I'm taking smaller steps. So I start with those micro no's,
Yep.
so I used to be the person that was sending emails at 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. One, because I was up, but two, because maybe that was overperforming. I didn't mean for it to be like that. So then I got an app that allowed me to send it in the morning, right? So I was kind of looking at it from that. My confidence was caught up in being that overperformer, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think respect follows the consistency of all of the choices. So with the internal self-sacrifice, women in particular are socialized by prioritizing their value with their ability to be selfless. So in our upbringing, we feel like our boundaries are contradictions to what we learned when we were younger. So that
Okay.
self-esteem and boundaries, I think, is an expression of what my worth is. And when I'm able to assert my limits on where I'm not going and where you can take me, they reinforce my self-respect, right? And so
Yes.
with that need, I'm very clear on the needs for time, peace, and all the needs that I have. That matters to me. So when I speak about that with boundaries and self-esteem in the earlier part of the book, it's really key because I think self-esteem as a definition is sometimes difficult for people, but self-esteem and self-compassion as a foundation of who you are, and you practice that self-compassion, if you can do that in small chunks, it'll make you feel as though you're bridging those gaps and you don't feel as though you need to overperform and you don't feel as though you're borrowing it from someplace else. And I think that's essential for setting boundaries, because if I'm feeling good about that, then I know how to set those boundaries and
Wow.
practice.
Okay. Okay. I'm tracking. So let me kind of take that into the workplace, right? When we
Yeah,
talk about um, reframing where you get your worth, right, and how you define your self-worth. Um, in the workplace, it can be challenging to feel comfortable enough to set boundaries, and sometimes that's because of maybe there's a lack of psychological safety in the
yeah,
workplace, right?
yeah.
And so you feel compelled to say yes because you tie it to your job
True,
security, right?
true.
And
Oh, true.
Obviously, you have lots of tools and tips, and we're not telling somebody to go out there and lose their job
Definitely.
because they read Daphne's book and they're deciding to say no, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that's not the point of what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yeah.
Because you have to be intuitive, right? Because we talked about consequences of your no. You have to be willing to accept that there might be an outcome from your no that you're not looking for or that you'd rather not have, whether it's loss of a relationship, whether it's impact of your image at the office, right? But you're looking also at what you're trying to gain from that no, and is it worth it, right?
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
glad you talked about that brand because you know how big I am about branding, right?
yes, yes, I
So,
know.
I think the fear of consequences at work without stalling your career, if you will, I believe you need to lead with value, not anxiety, and then frame those boundaries as quality controls or QA, if you will. So, one thing that I think is important is that when we're looking at handling those fear of consequences at work,
Hmm.
we need to um, think that we're not trying to risk our career advancement, which is what you said. However, I do believe that whenever you go into anything, that you do have an exit strategy, right? That you need to kind of keep in the back of your mind because you don't know if you'll ever enter into a toxic environment or something where it's just not working for you. And if we look at it from the IT perspective, looking at data, is it the right fit? Does it work for you? And some of those things you just need to keep in the back of your head. But better yet, the result is better work, better reputation, and better runway, right? So the
Yes,
fear of judgment and conflict, when we're looking at that, when we're trying to set those boundaries at work, it's sometimes over exaggerated, right?
right.
You're thinking that it is, but not really. But I do believe when you're trying to look at those consequences at work, you need to have a mentor or someone that you can trust when you're talking about your career trajectory, right? I found that when I'm looking at that, I always want to have a person at the table who is vying for me, right?
Yeah,
So even though I'm not there, we're talking and you're understanding where I really want to go. So I'm not fearful with you because I trust you, right? And so I'm taking that and I want to test those boundaries, but I'm really looking for the outcome. Where do I want to be? And if I'm trusting that person and they're always at the table vying for me, then I don't have to worry about that piece about fearing that I'm going to lose on those consequences because if I'm trusting you and you're delivering that message, and you believe that I'm the right person for the job, then you'll continue giving that message, right? Have you
yeah.
seen that as well?
Yeah. I would say having an advocate, having mentors, having people that you know are kind of in your corner is important in the
Yeah,
workplace, and that
yeah,
does help. I think
yeah,
something else you mentioned in your book was key to this conversation as well, and you talked about what assertiveness is and what it isn't,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And you frame that up because I think some people maybe look on the extreme ends when you talk about assertiveness, like going from not asserting yourself at all to all the way to the opposite side and being maybe like a hard, firm, cold no, and you're
yeah,
taking a stand,
no.
which can kind of be a knee-jerk reaction if you've been someone who's maybe feels walked on, and
Yeah,
now you're trying to be assertive. That's not what you're talking about when
no,
you're
no, no, no. So when
assertive.
we're looking at boundaries of leadership, I believe that when you're looking at all of these terms, whatever you get as far as moving forward with that, the assertive communication, I think, is key to navigating your workplace boundaries without stalling your career, right? So I utilize these I statements, right?
Yeah,
Because if I can explain how it's affecting me professionally, I'm not putting it on you. I'm not
right.
allowing you to take my emotional boundary and put that on you. So I
Right.
can say something like, I feel or I notice what I'd like to do and kind of putting that assertive communication on there so that we can make sure that we're expressing those limitations without any type of hostility or over explaining and helping me come upon where I want to go. And I don't want to erode your trust because I think as I frame those as leadership, it's that same thing about the ripple effect. Because what I'm attempting to do as a leader is guide a team to where they need to be, right?
Mhm.
So if I'm exposing how I need to be acting and I'm utilizing I, not you, you made me feel this way. It's not that I was when we were talking, I felt that, or whatever that is, not blaming it on Jonathan for taking on my emotional boundary, right?
Okay.
So when I look at that, modeling, trying to help those healthy boundaries, and that can inspire other people to do the same. So I'm not telling you to go out there and quit your job. However, I do believe that you don't want to be walked on. And in the event that you actually feel those types of feelings, you need to have those type of conversations, but utilize the I statements because it's you, how you're feeling. It's not Jonathan, how he's feeling.
Yeah.
I understand that when we talked about this, I understand what the project may be at jeopardy because there are a couple of things that we're missing. Perhaps we can do this. Perhaps we can adjust. So we look at it as an I and a we because we're a team and we're trying to be comrades on this, but I'm not going to put my monkey on your back,
Got it.
right?
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure. And then it's like I said before, when I'm a very direct person, so you won't be confused when I'm being assertive and I'm asserting myself to you. There will be no confusion to you of what I'm attempting to get across. So when I assert those limitations, you understand and you can trust that that's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Okay. Got it. So how you communicate your no is just as important as stating the no and having the boundary there. Your style of how you go about that also weighs something, especially in the workplace, right? And I
Yeah.
think you mentioned too, like being assertive is about coming up with a win-win in situations as well, not necessarily just a hard nope, not
Oh,
doing that,
yeah.
but also stating that it's important to me that we get this project done and we meet this deliverable as well. However, tonight have a commitment with my family and I'm unable to work late. Would it work if, right? And
We
maybe
got
say,
together tomorrow morning.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
right. So it's your approach too. Don't just go straight to the no, right? Think about how you could frame things up in a way that people clearly understand. I value this as well. I know it's important for me to do this as part of my job.
Right.
Can we do this and providing an
Right.
alternative? Can you speak to that?
Right. And I think also, Jonathan, the permission to pause, right?
Okay.
There could be opportunities where you're uncertain because you're starting to think when we look at that, when should I say yes versus no, right?
Okay.
I'm visual, right? So I create a table and I'll say a couple things. Say I'm being rejected from something, right? I
Yeah.
may create a table and say, these are the doors that were closed. However, these were the opportunities that were open based on those things.
Yeah.
Tie them together all the time. When should I say yes? Is it in alignment with my core values? Is it in alignment with what I want to do? Is it alignment with all of the things that I identified intentionally when I'm thinking about decisions? Do I
Yeah.
have the capability? Do I have the energy, all of the resources that I value and my time and my attention? Do I have that? Is it an ROI? Am I learning from it? Am I growing from it? Am I, doing something that's going to catapult me? And then, as I indicated before, if I say no to two of those, then I shouldn't be doing it. Right.
Okay.
So when I'm looking at it from that perspective, I'm always guiding. And like I said, I'm a work in progress, but I try to guide all of the decisions that I make when I say yes and when I say no to a data-driven approach for me that works for me because I know how I feel and how my behavior operates when I do one versus another. I always say that I need to be intentional with my yes and my no, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my emotions, I'm looking at my time, I'm looking at my physical space. So when someone actually approaches me about those things, then I need to consciously kind of sit back and then I'll think about my schedule and then I'll think about, does it align with where I'm going with what I want? Like, is it a long-term goal that I'm going to meet if I take this on? Is it going to be something that I believe is working with my vision and it's going to it's not going to deplete me from my energy or my emotions? And then I'll look at, do I have the capability? If I do this, then I may not be able to do this, which is
Yeah.
probably a little bit more purposeful for me. And then am I going to get anything out of it? And when I
Yeah.
start thinking about those, I'm like, no, right? But I had to take the permission to pause to think about that. Or it
Yeah.
could be like, let me get back to you tomorrow. Let me evaluate my schedule so I can fully be there for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm taking the opportunity. I'm not saying no to you yet, so I'm being a little bit negotiable, but I'm giving myself permission to pause so I can evaluate whether or not me saying yes or no delineates my respect for you
Yeah.
or me or affects our relationship. Because I need to make sure that I understand that boundaries are a form of self-respect. It's telling you
Yes.
that my resources matter to me, right? My
Yeah.
time, my attention, my energy, that matters to me, and that's important. So
Yeah.
when you're looking at me and you know that I'm going to say yes, you know you're going to get all of that,
Yeah.
right? I'm not just going to sit back and give you. And then I think that clarity, when I'm telling you that, that builds trust. So the continued trust that you've had when you've asked me to do something, you understand that I'm going to come in all in. I'm not going to be there physically, but my mind is going to be somewhere else. So you're going to get everything that you've expected to me because you trust. And I think that's a leadership skill. The
Yeah.
leaders that do that the best and they can ripple that down to their team are the ones that you respect.
Okay. Yeah.
They can
And
tell you, everybody says you got an open door, right? But how can you get the focus to make the right decisions for the organization if your door is always open? Sometimes you have to have contemplated time on your schedule that says these are non-negotiable. Tell your admin, these are the times that I can't make it. But then there's available times where you do want to give that. And then you ripple that down to your team as well.